Hello, dear friends. A lunatic or a nutcase is someone who lacks judgment or is not quite right in the head. A redneck or a banking is an uneducated and ignorant person whose only source of information is manipulated television. This article has an autobiographical component because that is what inspired me to write. Opinion piece. World of lunatics. Unbridled ego. Few sane people. Rednecks abound. Need for freedom. Humans are crazy. Geopolitical tension. Society is a madhouse. Hidden power struggle. Geopolitical chess game. How to survive madness. World stage full of activity. Governing involves coercion. Upset and humiliating tests. Criticism of authoritarianism. Transformation is unstoppable. What you think is what you are. Writing and communicating is the best therapy. Let's start. I have spent my whole life searching for serene, culturally balanced environments, even if not everyone thinks the same, but where everything can be discussed without offending anyone, and where there isn't a collection of mental complexes and absurd reactions. But my joy went down to the drain for many years in my homeland. I was born into a dystopian but well-off family. I went to a La Salle school with religious fanatics and classmates who attacked me for no reason, and then to high school with crazy teachers who approved whomever they wanted. It seems that madness was typical of my homeland back then. What I have done to deserve this, I wondered. I began to find normalcy when I left my homeland, especially in Madrid. There I found a university where people were treated with respect, despite living in the crazy years of the Spanish transition, where strikes and rallies proliferated, which seemed absurd to me at the time, because they were young progressives trying to carve out a political career that would make them rich. But little by little I discovered an intellectual elite that I loved. Many politicians came to power with nothing and left with a fortune behind them and another in front of them. First, I discovered my elegant Asturian friend Vicente Guzmán, who was an inseparable companion for many years, imparted a wealth of knowledge to me, and never betrayed me. I don't know if he's still alive, because I haven't had contact with him for many years. Then I was fortunate enough to be a disciple of the yoga teacher Ramiro Calle, who opened the doors to Eastern philosophy and the knowledge of the great yogis and lamas. Then I attended the weekly gatherings with professors Agustín García Calvo and Fernando Sabater, then the lectures of Fernando Sánchez Dragó and Antonio Escotado. Then I was fortunate enough to meet spiritual masters like Lanza del Basto and Emilio Fial Millo, among many others, and I felt like I had reached heaven. All of them, and many more, opened my mind to a cultured and refined world unknown to a boy from the provinces, tired of an upset and uncouth world. But when I finished my studies, I have to return to my homeland to work at a newspaper that seemed like another gallery of lunatics, starting with the editor, who was mentally ill, paranoid, obsessive, arrogant, and tyrannical, and who now dedicates himself to exposing the monarchy's dirty laundry to feel superior. And once again, I asked myself the famous question: what have I done to deserve this? It took me years to discover the answer to that famous question. It seems that all spirits who have chosen to ascend before death in order to reach the supreme truth for the benefit of all beings are subjected to all kinds of upset and humiliating tests to prove our mettle, and they have to the point of driving me almost crazy. But little by little I regained my sanity and seeing my life more clearly, thank God. Writing and communicating is the best therapy I have found, without resentment or anger, because nothing ever happened. It was just a bad nightmare. Most of those lunatics are already dead, and I hope they have seen from the other side the ridiculous characters they portrayed. State paternalism. Antonio Escotado put forward the idea that governing others should be a crime, as a critique of authoritarianism and collectivism, which imply the annulment of individual freedom in favor of the power of a few. Escotado argued that governing others is an unjust form of domination and therefore should be prosecuted, as it perpetuates the slave-based and clerical logic that modern societies must abandon in favor of responsible freedom. Escotado posits freedom and individual rights as supreme values, and denounces any system that subordinates the subject to the interest of the group, transforming it into an object of administration and control. He equates the desire to govern with a dogmatism applied to social life, so legislating on morality of individuals or punishing agreements between adults amounts to invading a sphere that should be inviolable. This position arises from his deep attachment to the defense of personal responsibility and autonomy, considering that the collective interest can never justify the subordination of the individual, and that ultimately governing involves exercising moral violence and coercion over others. In his works, such as The Enemies of Commerce, Escotado strives to show how utopian ideologies always end up justifying authoritarianism and hierarchical societies under the pretext of social justice. He argues that legal intervention should only be carried out when one person's freedom affects another's, but never when it involves personal decisions made voluntarily. Hence, his criticism of the criminalization of governing, of intervening in free agreement between adults. This idea resonates in debates about democracy, state paternalism, and the limits of political power, where the legitimacy of government over the lives of others continues to be the subject of profound criticism. End times. How do we survive the insanity of the end times? Asks James Gilliland. The worst part is that society is a madhouse, given that mental illness is contagious when everyone is crazy and no one is sane, all due to a lack of self-awareness. End times insanity refers to irrational behaviors, whether collective or individual, where the imminent arrival of apocalyptic events is believed to be characterized by fear, loss of control, and the breakdown of social norms. The end times are associated with the arrival of extraordinary events and the spiritual transformation of the world. In this context, a period of tribulation, deception, the appearance of false prophets, and an increase in evil is described, which can lead to fear, anxiety, and extreme behaviors. Contradictions. The phrase human beings are mad is often used to highlight the contradictions, irrationalities, and peculiarities of human behavior. Lacan, through the aphorism "everyone is mad," points out how human thought is marked by delusions, mistakes of perception, and a constant creation of subjective realities. Nietzsche also said, "In individuals, madness is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule." According to Tom Brown Sr., human beings are mad because they suffer primarily from their own irrational thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs. Madness is explained as a consequence of an unbridled ego, an inability to enjoy life, and a tendency to complain. In short, human madness is a mixture of imagination, irrationality, creativity, and contradiction. Suffering and personal problems arise from an untrained mind and self-destructive thoughts. It refers to the human mind as an ogre or a vampire, which dominates and enslaves the person until they learn to tame it and take control of their thoughts. Most people suffer because they adopt negative thoughts, usually resist reality, and obsess over things being different. Every human being lives a subjective reality, created and filtered by their mind. What you think is what you are. Rumors of reset. Without listening is disconcerting. Be prepared because something is about to happen. Who is behind the global organized stalking operations? Gisara hits the Louisiana state capitol in 2025. The monetary revolution aims to end the IRS and strip power from the Fed. Putin and Xi have just begun the global reset in Beijing. Putin and Xi got on an open microphone discussing life extension. People can live younger and even achieve immortality. Predictions are that in this century there is the possibility of living up to 150 years, they said. China and Russia are positioning themselves as the pioneers in biotechnology, countering Western dominance. The life extension market projected at $1.5 trillion by 2035 is currently a playground for the elite. Space Force Command moves from Colorado to Alabama to the Rocket City of Huntsville, creating 30,000 jobs. Historic silver price breakout. Silver is devastating banks that manipulate paper silver with a historic breakout above $40. According to Simon Hunt, a global depression is unavoidable. The data seems contradictory. Geopolitical tension is increasing, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between temporary volatility and a fundamental change in the system. The final phase of Phoenix operation is underway, marking a historic turning point in the fight for global financial liberation. December 2025 will bring undeniable progress with greater risks than ever before. As we approach 2026, humankind is on the brink of financial liberation. The QFS, GISRA, and the redemption centers are weapons against financial oppression. The power of the elite is crumbling, and nothing can stop what is coming. The dawn of the new era has arrived. The transformation is unstoppable. The stage is set. banks are crumbling. The media is collapsing. Puppet governments are losing influence. What comes next? The chaos of truth. Markets in freefall. Riots in the streets, and the sleepers awaken to a reality they cannot comprehend. But from the ashes, order arises. Not the order of tyranny, the order of light, the quantum financial system, the return of a gold-backed sovereignty, the restoration of law, not maritime slavery. That is why you must not fear silence. That is why you must not break when the blackout comes, because when the EBS speaks, it will not be the voice of tyranny, but the voice of liberation. It is the hammer that shatters illusion. It is the dawn that breaks the longest night. The blackout protocol is not the end, but the beginning. Stay calm, stay alert. When the screens go dark, remember this. Darkness is proof that the light is about to speak. The Vatican will issue a midnight decree. Ad tempus nullius. Translation: void jurisdiction. Turbulence. Watch the water. This phrase suggests that something important is coming, urging people to pay close attention and developing events, especially those that at first glance might seem minor or unrelated. The admonition to watch the waters underscores the urgency of the moment, encouraging people to stay informed and critically analyze the events unfolding around them. Saturnine cults behind modern corporations. They present themselves as harmless symbols of progress, technology, and wealth. But behind the logos, architecture, and corporate rituals lies something much older and more disturbing: the cult of Saturn. From secret symbols in plain sight to the esoteric obsession with control, sacrifice, and infinite cycles. The Great Unraveling, a turning point for civilization, according to Ariel Proletario 1. Over the next 5 to 10 years, the global landscape will undergo a transformation so profound it will resemble a science fiction saga, driven by currency revaluation, dividing payments, artificial intelligence, sovereign wealth funds, zero-point energy, and declassified technology. This transformation will culminate in a united humanity, where the impossible will become reality. We are not far from any of that, because measures are being implemented now. The global stage is buzzing with activity, from shifting economic landscapes to high-stakes international diplomacy. The current economic turbulence is not simply a crisis, but a deliberate dismantling of the old system to pave the way for a new one, and gold plays a crucial role in signaling this monumental shift. From the crumbling of old economic structures and exposure of institutional influence to a complex geopolitical chess game involving world leaders and a hidden power struggle, the narrative suggests a carefully orchestrated series of events leading to a great awakening and to a global reset. Breaking news. Biden's executive orders and pardons could be declared null and void because they were signed with an auto pen. Russia and China signed deal to build long-delayed Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline. Canada is in trouble. Companies are threatening to leave the country. The Canadian economy is in recession, as is Germany. Inflation in the EU is starting to rise. The Fed's independence is being exposed. Gold reveals the direction of the economy. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.